but how a person can become aware of the death of a loved one who's many, many miles away without any physical contact. So Frederick Myers and his colleagues produced two books, very, very deep, very, very large books. One was called Phantasms of the Dead, which explained the theory behind how this happens. And the other book they produced was Phantasms of the Living, where a person who was still living could project their consciousness to another person. So these two lines of investigation, these two discoveries of his work, really triggered my interest, and I needed to understand more. And whilst I was reading it, it all made sense, and I'm going to give you a personal anecdote now that helps me make sense of it. And when I was studying for my master's degree in mysticism, in order to pay the bills and earn a living, I was driving a truck for a living. I used to drive a supermarket truck to pay for supermarkets. And I was in the canteen, the driver's canteen one night waiting to be loaded, and another driver came in, and we were the only two people in there. And the drivers knew what I was studying, and they thought it was curious. And this driver came up to me and he said, can I talk to you about something that I've never spoken to anyone else about before? So I said, sure, what's the problem? He said, explain this for me. And he told me this story about, he was a young man, a single man, a man about town. He used to go out with the ladies and going to parties and discos. He said, there was a party I really wanted to go to, but I couldn't because I was on night shift here driving. But I really wanted to go to this party. So I said, yeah, okay. I said, so what's the story? What's the problem? He said, well, a couple of days later, I bumped into a friend of mine and said, did you go to the party? And he said, yeah. And I said to him, what was it like? He said, well, you know, you were there. I saw you there. You were talking to so-and-so. And the driver said, but I thought I dreamt that. He said, no, you were actually there. So it was a question that he needed an answer. He said, how could I dream something and then someone told me I was actually there? So this is a case of what's known as astral projection, where the spirit form of a person can become manifest outside of their physical body. It's like a dual rotation. It's called bilocation in scientific terminology. Bilocation. You can be in two places at once. Your physical body is in one place, but your spiritual body is in another. And there's a huge amount of scientific evidence collected by Frederick Myers and his colleagues at the Society in the 19th century to validate this. And people are experiencing this all the time. Now, the modern version of this, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners will be aware of the term remote viewing, which was developed by the US Department of Defense back in the 60s as a means for psychics to spy on the Russians. You must have heard of that. You must have talked about it.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay. So this is where this concept originates. It goes back to the experiments of Frederick Myers. Now, after Myers' death, it all went quiet. But then in the 1950s, the Russian neurologist Leonid Vasiliev at the Department of Neurology at the University of St. Petersburg came across the work of Myers, and it intrigued him. So he decided, as a neurologist, he wanted to investigate it. And he started studies in what he called distant mental influence. And from the 1950s Right the way through the 60s, he conducted experiments with colleagues in London, in New York, in Athens, the Society for Psychical Research in America and in Athens, conducted these experiments to test whether you could hypnotize a person from a long distance. And this is telepathic hypnosis. And it was proved conclusively that a person could offer a suggestion, for example, from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok, 1,700 miles away, to perform certain action, and there were observers at the other end, see what happened, and it was scientifically proven time and time again. So, and when I discovered this, I was astonished and amazed because I'd been studying hypnosis and practicing hypnosis. And my understanding of hypnosis is the way it works. You're sitting in front of a person, or you're on a stage with an audience, and you give a suggestion to a person, and they carry out a suggestion. But in all the research reading that I've done, and all the manuals and textbooks that I've read on hypnosis, no one mentions telepathic hypnosis. I had to go back to the 19th century to discover it.
That's remarkable. I wasn't aware of that myself. He called it magnetism, though, didn't he?
Well, Mesmer called it magnetism. There was a transition from the use of the terminology of magnetism to hypnosis in 1845. James, what was his name? James...
We'll just take a quick time out, Terrence. We'll come back and discuss spirit release therapy, spirit possession. Here's Chuck Berry taking us into the break with Rollover Beethoven on Coast to Coast AM.
Well, I'm gonna write a little letter, I'm gonna mail it to my local DJ. Yeah, it's the jumping little record I want my jockey to play. Rollover Beethoven, I gotta hear it again today. You know my temperature rising, the jukebox blowing the fuse. My heart beating rhythm and my soul keeps singing the blues. I roll over Beethoven, tell Tchaikovsky the news. I got the rockin' pneumonia, I need a shot of rhythm and blues. I caught the rolling off the rider sitting down at a rhythm review. I roll over Beethoven, they rock.
KFI. News on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks.
I'm Phil Hewlett from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. After some sort of a dispute, a 60-year-old man apparently decided he had enough with his 18-year-old neighbor. Now the man is behind bars related to the shooting death of the teen in Lomita. An 82-year-old woman is in critical condition. Her 74-year-old husband dead after they were struck by an SUV in Huntington Beach. The couple was riding a tandem bicycle at the time. The driver stuck around and cooperated with police, who say this was not a case of DUI. 4 people were rescued from the water this weekend in the port of L.A. after they crashed their powerboat into the breakwater. The boat partially sank after the 10 p.m. crash. Southland weather from KFI. We're on the front end of another heat wave. Wednesday should be your hottest day of the week. Today, some morning low clouds and fog, then sunshine later. Temps from the low 70s at the coast to the low 90s inland. Right now, 67 in Fullerton. It is 66 in San Clemente. Long Beach is 68, and in Calabasas, it is currently 60 degrees. We lead local. From the KFI 24-hour newsroom, I'm Phil Hewlett.
If you're self-employed and you're looking for a home loan and you've been denied by traditional lenders, call Equinox Home Financing. You don't have to be penalized just because you're an entrepreneur. Equinox Home Financing can use personal or business bank statements instead of tax returns. For a purchase or a refi, Equinox Home Financing offers competitive rates and can close in less than 30 days. Call 855-LOAN-455. That's 855-LOAN-455. Or go to equinoxhomefinancing.com. That's equinoxhomefinancing.com. Hey, it's Dean Sharp. If you've decided to sell your house, I know it is tempting to just get it listed as is or even take one of those cash-out deals. But why sell yourself short when making just the right upgrades will maximize its sale value? You mean like flipping our own home, Dean? We don't have the expertise or the cash for that. I know, but my friends at Revive do. Revive knows exactly what to change, what to spend, and where to spend it. They'll manage everything for you and front all the costs. Yes, Revive fronts the cost. They get paid back from escrow, but the profit gained is all yours. How much profit? The average client makes over 200% profit on what Revive invests on their behalf. It's a no-brainer. Reach out to iloverevive.com today and see if your home qualifies. To make the most from the sale of your home, go to iloverevive.com. That's iloverevive.com.
KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk.
Here's what I'm going to suggest. Your grandmother, throw her out on the street. She doesn't know what the hell's going on anyway. And take that room and adopt a dog or a cat that really needs it. Does that work?
Well, I'm not going to kick Granny out on the street. I'm just going to say adopt Granny a cat.
Bill Handel.
There you are.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
That's the kind of behavior that I would like to see encouraged. You know, the behavior of the guys that stopped the terrorist on the train.
Wait. That is a symptom of toxic masculinity. Are you suggesting?
Bring it on, then.
Okay, Jerry and Shannon.
Bring it on.
Just clarify. Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KFI.
That's what I'm saying. He's a dilettante. A dilettante's a good word. Now, I know it. I don't have to spell the fancy words I use.
John and Ken. Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
You voted for all this, and now what? You're going to move to a state where there's far less of these progressive whack jobs and say, wow, life is better here. None of this bad stuff happens by accident. It happens because of choices we make.
John and Ken.
It's our fault.
Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI. I hate retail.
You know, my philosophy is if you can't get it free or wholesale, you just don't need it. There's my philosophy in
It was
life.
Costco or nothing.
Let me tell you, it's either on sale or wholesale or you just don't need the product.
Bill Handel. Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI. This is Coast to Coast AM. Now, here's your guest host, Richard Serrett.
Security. Otis Redding. A team of researchers led by Russian scientists recently revealed two near-pristine prehistoric lion cubs discovered frozen in the banks of a Siberian river. Boris Brezhnev regularly searched the banks of the Semyuleka River for mammoth tusks, which he has a license to collect. Instead, he stumbled across two lion cubs preserved for tens of thousands of years. Brezhnev found the first cub, a male specimen nicknamed Boris, in 2017. He discovered the second cub, a female specimen nicknamed Sparta, in 2018, just 15 meters, around 50 feet, from the first cub. Sparta was preserved in near-perfect condition and is probably the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found and is more or less undamaged, apart from the fur being a bit ruffled. Love Dalen, co-author of a new study on the find, said Friday in a news release from Stockholm University that she even had her whiskers preserved. Now, Boris was deemed a bit more damaged, but still pretty good. Researchers initially believed the cubs might be siblings, but radiocarbon dating indicated that Sparta was around 28,000 years old, while Boris was over 43,000 years old. You can read more of the story and see some pretty impressive photos as well in the News section up at coasttocoastam.com. And if you like what you hear tonight, this morning, and you want to find out more about what I do, you can go to my website, strangeplanet.ca. Everything is right there. strangeplanet.ca. You can now hear me weekday afternoons, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, on the all-new Richard Serrett Show on Newstalk Saga 960 AM. That's heard across the Greater Toronto Area. Saga, S-A-U-G-A, 960 AM. You can stream it live on saga960am.ca or find it on Simple Radio or Tune In. More and more people seem to be listening to radio that way on an app. And you can also listen to my weekly syndicated radio program, The Conspiracy Show, on AM 740 Zoomer Radio in Toronto. And that's Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. And my podcast, Conspiracy Unlimited, drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can subscribe at conspiracyunlimitedpodcast.com. There's a lot of websites I've thrown at you, but the easiest way is just to go to strangeplanet.ca, strangeplanet.ca. Back to more of my conversation with Terence Palmer, PhD, as we continue to discuss spirit possession and spirit release therapy right here on Coast to Coast AM.
You're smart to worry about age-related mental decline. I do, which is why I take Matter by Elysium Health. Matter is science, not some passing fad. It was developed in partnership with the University of Oxford to slow the brain loss that occurs as we age. Matter contains a patented formula that is clinically proven to slow age-related loss in the brain's memory centers by an average of 86%. To me, it's a miracle of modern science. Is brain health important to you? Here are questions to see if you need Matter. 1. Have you noticed changes, even mild changes, in your memory? 2. Does any sort of memory decline run in your family? If you said yes, then take Matter by Elysium to help support your brain health today, tomorrow, and later in life. Go to trymatter.com/George and use promo code George at checkout to save $45. That's promo code George at trymatter.com/George. trymatter.com/George for $45 off.
Real people, real stories.
I have acute eczema. I have tried every cream and ointment that you can imagine. It was pretty miserable. So I started taking Carnivora, and at this point, I don't want to ever be without it.
Our little dog developed this lymph problem. The chemotherapy lasted for 6 months. He started developing more lymph nodes that were swelled up. So I thought I'd just try Carnivora. The lymph nodes started to go down, swelling did. Then I took him into the vet to have him checked out, and there was no signs at all inside.
My cat had issues that developed in his eye, so my veterinarian said, you know what, just go ahead and remove the eye. I heard the Carnivore advertising, so I said, you know what, I'm going to order this product. They did all the tests. I kid you not, this product saved his eye.
Call 866-836-8735. That's 866-836-8735. Or visit carnivora.com. That's CARNIVORA.com.
We are back with Terence Palmer, PhD, talking about spirit possession and the science of spirit possession. And so you were working as a hypnotherapist, and
Yeah.
you had several cases that just nothing seemed to help. So you went looking for I don't know, some clues as to what might work. Where did that lead you?
In the first instance, it led me to a psychiatrist in London, Dr. Holden Sanderson. He's retired now. I was asking colleagues, how can I solve this mystery? Some of these cases are threatening to me physically and emotionally. And I needed to find a solution. So I did two things actually. I searched the literature, and I found a book written by a Swiss psychiatrist called Dr. Hans Nagli Osgood called Possession and Exorcism. And I thought, well, that's interesting, written by a psychiatrist. So I bought that. And I was astonished at what I was reading, where this was my first introduction to the idea by a psychiatrist. And in his book, he explained that psychiatry is beginning to realise that there's such a thing as multiple personality. But some of the cases that he discovered in his practice were beyond that. There was something else at work. So I needed to understand this from a practicing psychiatrist. So I went to see Dr. Sanderson in London, and I said to him, Dr. Sanderson, how do you tell the difference between a dissociated subpersonality, which is a split-off part of the psyche, and a possessing spirit? And he said, with great difficulty and a lot of practice and learning, a lot of experience. So I said, well, how do you get this experience? Where can I learn how to do this? And he put me in touch with a couple, a married couple in Kent, who had been to North America to study under another psychiatrist called Irene Hickman. She's deceased now, but Irene Hickman wrote 2 books, Probe Mind Hypnosis and Spirit Repossession. And this couple went to be trained by Irene Hickman, and they came back to England, and under license they set up what became known as the UK Hickman Academy. And I went there to study with them, and so I learned from them. So Hans Magley Osgood and Alan Sanderson are just 2 very, very brave and pioneering psychiatrists who were prepared to open the debate on this with their practical experience. And I began to learn from them.
And what was this method that this psychiatrist revealed in his book? What seemed to work beyond all expectation?
Well, you're going to be surprised at the answer, because I was astonished and surprised when I learned the answer. It is amazingly simple. All you have to do is ask.
All you have to do is ask.
All you have to do is ask. So for the hypnotherapist or the psychiatrist, with a client sitting in front of them, and in fact I'm going to read now a request that actually came through this morning. I got up this morning to prepare for this interview, and I checked my email, and this was the first email that I opened, and I'm going to read it to you in confidence. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't even know where these people are located in the world. They could be anywhere in the world. But this is what I got. It says, hello. I have a friend who is suffering badly with a bad spirit or demon attached to her. I think she's had it for most of her life. But it was let in via a Ouija board. She has since heard its voice. It attacks her sexually and punches and kicks her. She's on the brink of wanting to end her life. She hasn't slept in 2 years. Can you help? I'm at a loss what to do. We've tried deliverance and exorcism and praying, but no luck. Now, that came in this morning, and that is typical. I get these every day. Okay?
Every day? So, my word.
Every day. Every day. Every day. So what I've succeeded in doing over the past couple of years is to record 1,000 cases for scientific research and study and teaching. And I've just, I've got a colleague in Boston, Massachusetts, who takes all the raw data and presents them in easy to see graphs and illustrations to show what we found. And I can share some of that data with you now, this morning, if you like. But I just wanted to read that to you because it is typical. And I have to deal with these requests on a daily basis. So what I've had to do, from the knowledge that I've gained from Alan Sanderson, who supports my work, we're still in touch, we've become friends and colleagues over the past 20 years, we've had to train other people to teach how to deal with this. And teach them how to ask questions. So let's go to the scenario where I've got a patient, a client sitting in front of me, and I'm presented with a case like this. So the question is this: what is affecting this person's behaviour? Is it a hallucination? Are they mentally ill? Are they imagining this? Is it self-created possession, a pseudo-possession, imagined? Or is it real? So we need an answer to that question. And what I do now is I teach practitioners, therapists, hypnotherapists and psychiatrists, if they want to learn how to answer the question. So you sit the patient in front of you, and so how do you answer the question? And this is what I'm actually teaching this at the moment in London to the London College of Clinical Hypnosis. You get the person into an altered state of consciousness, into a hypnotic trance, if you like, if you want to call it that. You get them to change the frequency of their mental processes so that they themselves can investigate what's causing this problem. So the hypnotist, the therapist, guides the questioning. And the way I do it, the way I teach it, I say to the client, in an mental state of consciousness, I want you to scan your body from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes, and I want you to imagine you can see it like an X-ray picture in black and white. And I want you to scan that image in your mind and tell me if you see any colours. Now, if they are tuned in to the spiritual energy of their own body, they will see colours. They will see the colours of the chakras. They will see their aura. Okay? And then I can say to them, right, now I want you to tell me if you see something that doesn't belong or something that looks out of place. If there's a red patch or a dark patch in any part of the body, then I can say to them, oh, right, now I want you to give it a voice. And I want that voice to speak to me. And I want you to tell me, do you have a name? And if it's an earthbound spirit, you will get a name. And you can begin to have a dialogue with the earthbound spirit that's attached to that person. That's how it's done.
And how do you know, or how do you ascertain that person is not in fact mentally ill, that they do, just based on their say-so in this altered state of consciousness? Or are there telltale signs that someone actually has a spirit possession versus an underlying mental illness?
No, you have to investigate, you have to ask. And this is what you're asking now really is posing a question, but how does science, how does psychiatry investigate this? Yeah? That's the question, isn't it? How does science...
Yes, I suppose it is.
Yeah, and this is my suggestion. What's needed is for a psychiatric hospital or clinic, a psychiatrist who's interested in this question, to actually allow for a clinical trial to test the method. And the way the method is tested is very, very simple. I've written proposals for this, and I'm negotiating with one or two institutions as to how to implement this, or rather when to implement this. And the method is very, very simple. You get a group of people who are hearing voices. So the question is, are these voices imagined? Are they mentally, or are they hallucinations? Or do these voices belong to a spirit that's attached to them, or telepathically communicating with them? How do you test it? The first thing you do is you identify the nature of the voices in an interview. You say to the patient, you're hearing voices, okay, what are they saying? Would they be willing to communicate with me? And if they are willing to communicate with the investigator, you record the conversation, okay? Just to get the baseline data, the type of voice, how it's affecting the patient, and so on. Then you introduce the intervention. You use a standard protocol for dealing with the intrusion. And then the third stage of the process is you go back to the patient and you say, Are you still hearing voices? Did it make a difference? So using a clinical scientific method of repeated measure, this is how we can tell.
And so, yes, it does. I guess, in other words, if the proof is in the pudding. If it works,
yes,
then it wasn't an underlying mental illness. If it doesn't work, then obviously there's no spirit possession. It's a mental illness. So then, how do you get the spirit to leave?
You have a conversation with it, and you invite it to, rather you invite someone who's gone before. Now, this is an earthbound spirit. This is someone who's died and has not moved on to the spirit realms, or whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs happen to be. You can name it. It's we tend to call it the light. Our spirit, when we die, we return to the light. You can call it heaven, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you like, depending on your religious beliefs. So what we do is invite a loved one who's gone before, a parent or a partner, to come from the light to escort them, to show them the way. And that's how it's dealt. That's how it's dealt with.
And if it's not an earthbound spirit?
If it's not an earthbound spirit, it won't give a name, it'll be abusive. You have to deal with it in a different way. Now, the abusive, the demonic, the non-human spirit that's interfering with a person, religious exorcism uses the ritual of Imam to cast them out, as I'm sure you're aware. It doesn't really help very much. If religious exorcism is used, it is not addressing the hypothesis that it could be an earthbound spirit. You don't want to cast them out, you want to help them to go to the light. So the first thing you need to do in the questioning is to determine whether it's human or non-human. And you do this by asking for its name. If it's non-human, it will be abusive, or it won't have a name, or it will refuse to give its name. And what we do then, and now again you could say that what I'm going to convey to you is religious or supernatural nonsense, but it actually does work, whether you accept the philosophy behind it or not. The proof of the pudding, as you put it, is in the eating. You ask for angelic beings to come and escort you away.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
And does a spirit possession always present itself as what might appear to be a mental illness, or could it also appear to be a physical illness, a disability?
Yes, it can be physical as well. Yes, it can. And a person can be physically incapacitated in all sorts of different ways. Now, when I first started actually working in this area, putting what I've learned into practice and working with people, because I was becoming active in challenging, shall we call it, dark spirits, I came under attack myself. I had a client come to visit me one day. She complained that she was being sexually molested at night by a spirit entity. She was married with children, and she was suffering quite badly. So she booked an appointment to come and see me, and on the morning that she arrived, I was bent double in pain, and I had difficulty opening the door. And she said, "My God, what's happened to you?" And I knew straight away what was happening. I was being prevented from helping her. I was being targeted. So the first lesson that we teach our practitioners is how to protect yourself.
All right. Why don't we circle back, and discuss that on the other side. Terrence Palmer, PhD, is with us talking about the science of spirit possession. Here are the Hollies taking us into the break with Long Cool Woman in a...
You're going to get a bunch of emails saying handle your form. Okay, just to let you know, I agree with that. So you don't have to bother. Bill handle. Don't waste your time. Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
When people talk about how hot it is, I have to remind myself they're not necessarily talking about me. But can you blame me? And now, the top 5 reasons to visit Morongo. Number 5.
The Oasis pool is jumping. Jump into a cabana, lazy river, or a cocktail. It's all fun to us.
Number 4.
Keep it cool giveaway. You can get an awesome vertical meal prep cooler when you earn 500 points on your rewards card the 16th or 17th.
3.
Mosin Lunch Special. High-gain barbecue chicken in a tangy soy cilantro sauce with rice and pickled veggies. Only $20 all month long.
Number 2.
Hump Day giveaway. Just earn 500 points on your rewards card 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and you're guaranteed to win up to $100 cash or free slot play.
And the number 1 reason.
Roberto Tapia, live August 20th. Get your tickets now for this #1 Latin Billboard singer's return to Morongo.
Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Morongo. Good times.
If you or your family have been financially impacted by COVID-19, this pandemic is not your fault, and new California laws have been passed to help.
That's right. If you've fallen behind on your mortgage or run up credit card or business debt, please listen carefully.
Our friends at Oak Tree Law know every letter of the new laws, and just listen to these real examples of how they've helped our listeners.
A nurse from Torrance had her hours cut due to COVID-19. She was hit with medical issues of her own, racked up $160,000 in debt, and fell behind on her mortgage. With this new law, she was able to get current on her mortgage and eliminate the bad debt.
Here's a story about a real estate agent and her husband in Pasadena. Their income stopped when the pandemic hit. Their second mortgage was threatening to foreclose, and they had $75,000 in credit card and business debt. This new law allowed them to protect their home and eliminate the debt.
This pandemic has affected us all, but there is life-changing help available with one absolutely free call to Oak Tree Law.
800-542-2949, 800-542-2949, or visit OaktreeLaw.com.
You can listen to KFI everywhere, like you haven't noticed. KFI AM 640 Los Angeles, Orange County.
And KOST HD2.
It's 5 a.m. What did you miss?
It's time for Wake Up Call with Jennifer Jones Lee.
Radio app. Hi. How was your weekend? This was good. We cleaned out the garage. Yeah. Why do you argue when you clean out the garage? You guys are both going toward a common goal, making the garage cleaner. So why does 6 inches of space spark a fight over what should go in that spot? I don't mean like, hair pulling, cussing kind of fight, but like what? Why? You ever wondered that with you and your significant other? Something so stupid that you get so wrapped up in it? This had to do with a rake. Anyway. Hope you had a great weekend. Here's what's just ahead on your wake-up call. The LA County Health Department says there was a spike in cases of COVID-19 over the weekend, but there is some good news. LA County Sheriff's detectives have solved a 1992 double murder in El Monte thanks to a random phone call from an inmate in 2019. Steve Gregory's got a feature piece for us on that one. And the Tokyo Olympics have ended, and I'm just going to say you'll like who finished on top of the medal count. Unless you're Jace, who listens to us in Australia every single morning. Not you, Jace. You won't like it. 5:05, we'll talk with ABC's Catherine Falders. Well, no vacation for President Biden just yet. Work continues on that infrastructure bill, and it looks like lawmakers will be working pretty much around the clock to hammer something out. We'll talk more about that with her in just a few minutes. But let's start with some of these stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. The LA County Health Department says there was a spike in cases of COVID-19 over the weekend, but the daily positivity rate continues to go down. A week ago, 6% of every 100,000 residents had COVID-19. As of yesterday, it had fallen to 4.3%. Hospitalizations continue upward. As of Sunday, there were 1,433 people being treated for the virus, and just a week ago, it was 1,096. Health officials say almost everyone in the hospital with COVID is unvaccinated. The top infectious disease expert in the U.S., Anthony Fauci, says he hopes the Food and Drug Administration will give full approval to COVID-19 vaccines by the end of the month. He says he thinks that would create a wave of vaccine mandates in the private sector, as well as schools and universities. Fauci says mandates need to be done at the local level to help curb the spread of the virus. Do you know how much backlash is going to happen? We're already seeing it. There are nurses who are fighting back against the hospitals that say, if you don't get a vaccine, then you are fired. I know that there were demonstrations over the weekend in other states. But now, you and I, just everyday Joe Schmoes at our jobs in the private sector, iHeart all of a sudden says, okay, everybody has to get the vaccine. There are people in this building who are not vaccinated and who have no intention of getting vaccinated. So what are they going to do, lose their jobs? Are they going to quit? A little bit later in the hour, what happens if you are fired because you won't get the COVID-19 vaccine? Are you eligible then for unemployment? I'll let you know. LA County Sheriff's detectives have solved a 1992 double murder in El Monte, thanks to a random phone call from an inmate in 2019.
Detective Sean McCarthy said the man was in jail in another state.
He gave me information that convinced me this person knows about this murder.
McCarthy's talking about a 14-year-old girl who was shot by a stray bullet during a drive-by in front of a liquor store in El Monte. The girl was talking to her sister on a payphone when she was hit. A 19-year-old gangbanger was also killed.
It was a known hangout for El Monte Flores gang members.
McCarthy says the inmate gave up names, dates, and a detailed description of the gun used. It was also used later that night in '92 during an attempted robbery at a gun shop in Rialto. A shootout with cops would help because the gun was still in an evidence locker some 28 years later. McCarthy was able to get the gun and give it to the county lab.
They then compared it to casings that were left in the street at the liquor store and the bullets that were removed from the two deceased victims' bodies. And they matched.
McCarthy says they handed the case over to the DA and arrested 3 men. But since 2 of the men were 15 and 1 was 17 at the time of the shooting back in '92, the case would have to be tried in juvenile court. In April of this